No. Geographically? Geographically. This is cool. So I would say make sure that pretty face is showing.
Yes, true.
They're going to want to see that fucking thing. They're going to want to see that fucking thing, Alan. That fucking face. You good? Ready? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. I'm here today, and Alan is here as always, and we are going to talk about what today, Alan?
Why failure is a good thing.
Yep. Most people, I would say, would think quite the opposite. They would think that failure is what happens when you reach the end of the road and you've exhausted all options and you cannot continue. What do you, for somebody who would come up to you and say, Alan, I failed, I'm a failure, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do what I wanted. I failed.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
I would ask why they believe that they failed.
So most people think that when they don't accomplish their goals, like say I went to the gym tomorrow, I said I'm going to squat 405, and I couldn't do it. I tried, and I had to drop the weight because it was too heavy for me.
I think that's a good thing.
Right.
Because you set a goal that was beyond your current capabilities, which is going to force you to do things that will force you to grow and to stretch into that goal.
Right.
That said, if you tried to put 405 on and you were egotistical about it and you injured yourself, that would be bad.
That would definitely be bad.
That would be bad.
For those who I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear the rooster outside, but we are on the farm today. So that's what that is. So,
yeah.
A
little rooster action.
The traveling podcast.
The traveling podcast. We talk about failure a lot. A lot of people talk about failure. I think that it's a misunderstood concept, for sure. If you could articulate what failure actually is, like what would you define it as?
So I have a very, I would say I have a very skewed idea of what failure is, as Alan kicks the light over.
That's my bad.
I have a very skewed idea, but I think it's in a positive way. I don't think, I'm very similar to you because I spend so much fucking time with you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think failure is when you don't succeed. I think failure is when you quit.
Yeah.
I don't care if you have to crawl. I don't care if you're crying. I don't care if you need to take a day off. Like, that's all fine.
Yeah.
That's not quitting. That's not failing. Looking yourself in the mirror and saying, look, I cannot do this. I don't have it in me to stretch enough to do this. I think that's when failure actually occurs.
Do you think people do that consciously? They say, like, I can't do this, I'm done?
I think they do it consciously, but I think it's on false information. Like, I always go back to the splits or the yoga analogy where I cannot do a split right now. I simply can't.
Yeah.
In this moment, I cannot
in this moment.
do the splits.
That's the critical part, though.
Right.
In this moment.
Tomorrow, I will not be able to do the splits.
Nope.
Next week, I most likely will not be able to do the splits. But in a month or 2 months,
Or
I
3
will.
months? Yeah.
I will if I continue doing it.
Yes.
You have to understand that, like, there's a fine line between being unhappy with your progress and giving it 100% effort. There's a fine line. Yeah. I'm not happy with something unless I give it all my effort.
Same.
A lot of people are like, well, I tried it and it didn't work. And now I failed at that. And again, that going back to, like, your failures are not who you are. They should never make you up. They should never be your identity.
Yeah.
Just like your successes shouldn't.
Like that quote you always say, you are so much more than the sum of your
Yeah,
failures.
shout out to Mamazani.
Yep.
Who we had on the podcast. I had on the podcast.
Episode 3? Episode 4?
That was a while ago. Long
time
ago.
Great episode, though.
Yeah, I appreciate
Big Wayne Dyer fan.
She is she's next level.
Yeah, she's next
she's
level.
an intelligent woman.
Yeah, she is.
But I think so many people go off of the basis that lack of immediate success is failure.
Yeah, that's
right. So everybody that says, like, oh yeah, I failed at that, in your terminology, sure, maybe you did fail, maybe you didn't succeed immediately. But what you need to know is that doesn't mean you failed. That just means you haven't figured out the way yet.
That's why I'm so glad we're talking about this. Because even just talking about it now, it's like it's such an ambiguous topic. Because if you don't know what your own version of failure is,
right.
you don't know what to live by.
That's why I swear, man, the hardest thing for me when people say, if you don't stop kicking that light, I'm going to put you down.
That's my bad.
The hardest thing for me is when people say, like, what does hyperconscious mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. It's just not taking everything as it seems.
Yeah.
Failure is not what it seems. Success is not what it seems. Everybody thinks, oh, yep, you just went out to California, and then a week later you were successful. No, that's not how it works.
No chance.
That's what you see, but you don't see the behind the scenes.
That's the narrative bias.
Failure is every day. Every day we fail.
Yeah. Micro failures for macro
Can you explain
success.
that? Because you've explained it to me, and that has changed my life.
Yeah, it's such a huge thing. So imagine I always do the person A and person B. And you know what? Let's do Fred, Ted, and Ed. Big fan of Fred, Ted, and Ed.
What up?
So Fred, Ted, and Ed are friends. They all grew up together. Fred is failing every day. He has big, big, big goals, so big that they're really hard to obtain, but he's really working, grinding, trying to obtain them every single day. It seems on the micro level, the day-to-day, like he's failing. You know what? Let's use the gym, because this is going to really help people.
The gym is a huge one.
The gym is a huge analogy. And remember, the gym is physics, right? It's physiology and physics, so you can't really argue. That's why I love using the gym as an analogy, because it's the way the universe is set up.
Right.
So Fred, Ted, and Ed. Fred goes to the gym every day, and he goes to failure on every set. Ted goes in and does, 3 sets of 10 of bench press with 1 plate on each side. He does it pretty easily, but he's glad. He checks the box. He went to the gym.
Yep.
Ed doesn't go to the gym at all. In the first few weeks, it's not going to seem like there's any difference. In the first few months, it's not going to seem like there's any difference. In the first few years, though, the difference is going to be drastic. Right. Fred, who was failing every day, on every set, on every rep, who went to failure, and to define failure in this instance, going past your body's current capabilities. Let's say we bench press today and I can do, 80s for 9, but I try to get 10 and you help me on that last rep. I'm going to get more growth in my muscle from that last rep. I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to come back stronger the next day. That's Fred. Fred is failing on the micro level, which is the day-to-day, but on the macro level, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, he's growing tremendously. Now, to really logic this down to earth here, if you believe that the only way to have more is to become more, and that the only way to become more is to grow as a human being, failure is necessary. It's a necessity. Because just like the gym, when you lift heavy weights and you go past failure, and then your limits expand the next day, or the next week rather, you can bench press more, the same goes for your emotional well-being, your spiritual well-being, your finances. You have to stretch. And the only way to stretch is to set really high goals that are beyond your current capabilities. Like you said, the splits analogy. You cannot do a full splits right now.
Nope.
But if you set that goal and you try and you go past your current ability to split, which is probably pretty sad, right?
No, I can,
to be completely honest.
I'm pretty close.
But if you go micro failures, if you micro fail every day for 3 months, you'll eventually be able to do the splits because you went past your current mobility
over and over
again. Isn't it seem so simple?
It does.
Now it does. It wasn't always simple.
What made you, I'm sure you read it somewhere, but like what was the first instance that you put this into practice and then you actually saw that you reaped the results from it?
So I heard it from Gary Vee on one of his videos. He said, I'm failing every day on the micro level, but on the macro level, I'm succeeding big time. And I realized that that's very, very true. Because if you look at everyone listening right now, think about your friends, your circle of friends. There's someone out of your friends, and we won't name any names, who seems like they're succeeding on the daily. Like they're not really, they're kind of like doing a good job. They're doing a good job. They're not doing a great, extraordinary, oh my God, jaw-dropping job, but they're doing a good job. They're setting bars that are fairly low, and they're always hitting them. That does not create growth. That's the person going in and bench pressing 135 every day.
Right.
The person who's going from 135 to 145 to 155 to 185 to 225, and they're failing each time on the micro level, that's the person who's growing the most.
So I think for us, it's huge to like. I think that we're different than a lot of people, and a lot of like. This is a thing, right? This is. I want this to be my company. I want this to be my job. I want this to be my career, my life.
Amen to that.
And we try to show people what's behind the curtain. Like we fuck up once every episode. It's
Literally.
just part of it.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a fine line. Oh, I hit the table.
Yeah.
Obviously there it is.
There
like,
it is.
Right. Perfect.
We're shaking the camera.
Obviously there's a fine line between that and like just failing because you're not preparing.
Yeah.
Like small failures. Like if I forgot my phone or you forgot your phone, those are not acceptable failures. Like those are, you need to figure it the fuck out. You need to figure your shit out.
Let's say we did, right? So there have been episodes where I forgot the lights.
Well, yeah.
We figured it out because it's never resources that are the problem.
Right.
It's a lack of resourcefulness.
And
So
we don't want to not put in the rep.
Yeah, exactly. So even with or without lights, we make sure we podcast. Because if you need everything to be at its best in order for you to follow through, the chances of that are slim.
And let's go back to the gym analogy.
Yeah.
We've done this before.
Oh, yeah.
If you forget your headphones and you don't go to the gym, you
Yes.
should go to the gym because you will get growth from that.
You will. And you'll get perspective. Think about this. Okay, let's say this is such a good episode already. I love failure. So, seriously though.
There's a quote. I love failure. Alan Lazarus.
So, micro failures,
Yeah.
let me be specific. I'm not trying to say go jump out of a plane with a parachute.
Right.
That's, you only get one chance at doing that.
Right.
Hopefully you land in the water, and even then it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
So,
It's going to hurt so much you die.
yeah, pretty much. So, let's say we go to the gym without headphones. It sucks,
Oh, it's the worst.
but it's going to remind you of how much you love training with music.
Right?
So, it'll reinforce the positive habit of remembering your headphones.
If you take it that way.
If you take it that way, yeah.
If you say,
if you
fuck.
don't go to the gym, though,
Right.
then you won't
Right.
get that.
Oh, I forgot my
shit,
headphones.
Training without headphones.
Right. I'm going to stay home and order pizza.
People always say that phrase, you don't know what you have until it's gone. Every bodybuilder I've ever met has injuries.
Yeah.
Why is that? Seriously.
Because you're pushing past go every single time.
Yeah. So an injury, in a lot of ways, can be seen as a failure. That's a pretty big failure, too, not a micro failure. Like a micro failure would be a muscle tear that grows back stronger when you do a bicep curl. A big failure, catastrophic failure, is like, let's say you blow out your knee and you're out of the gym for 3 months.
Yeah.
Those are the shit you want to avoid. That's a macro failure. So
What would that be? Like, get off the gym subject, though. What would that be for Sue, who
yes.
just finished college, trying to start a shelter for dogs?
That would be her taking out a loan for $200,000, never having a business degree or any mentors, and just saying, I'm doing this no
Right.
matter what. When you haven't done the prep work and you take such a giant leap without any micro failures, you're going to really, let's say you're already $100,000 in debt, you just got out of school, and your degree was in biology, and then you take a $250,000 loan out to start a business in a dog shelter. You haven't learned anything about dogs yet, right?
Right.
And someone told you, jump in. That's a macro failure. That's a failure that you won't recover from. That's like tearing your ACL. You will recover eventually. I shouldn't say you won't.
Right.
But that's gonna take you out of the game. If it immobilizes you, that's a bad failure, in my opinion. Meaning debt, like a lot of debt. Mark Cuban says this. He says the worst thing you can do in starting a business is taking out a loan, because starting a business, there's no certainty. The only thing you're certain of is you're going to have to pay back that fucking loan.
Right.
So
Regardless
don't,
of
yeah.
where that money's coming from.
Exactly. So I always talk about this. I was in New York City, and I've been training for strength to try to bring my legs up this year. And to go back to the gym analogy, I use knee sleeves because I have a bad right knee that I've been working on. So I'm doing a lot of prep work. I'm getting deep tissue massages. I have a chiropractor. I'm icing and stuff. Not enough, but I need to.
Right.
I'm also foam rolling, working on mobility. So I'm putting in a lot of prep work. I built my strength a lot this year with knee sleeves. Then in New York City, when Jenny and I went there, I didn't have my knee sleeves with me. And I was like amped, and I was in the zone. And I was like, oh, I'm going to try to PR. When you work up to a certain level with a Band-Aid, so to speak, or a tool, my knee sleeves, and then you try to PR, personal record is what PR means, without the knee sleeves, that's a recipe for injury.
Right.
That's like the person who never learned about business and then goes all in on starting a business. So macro failures are where people macro failures destroy people's lives, not because their life is actually destroyed, but because they associate all failure as macro failures, when in reality, micro failures are the only way you ever succeed, and that's the bicep curls in the gym. You've got to go past failure in order to grow your bicep. This is good.
Yeah, no, this is it's helping me too, because like to me, I hear this all the time, so
it's helping it reframe it for me too.
Right.
It's really good.
Yeah.
This is good.
Right. And I want people to know we have these talks all the time. But every time, for some reason, when you put a mic and a camera,
I know
it's different.
It is different.
It's
better.
the same, but yeah, it's because I know what you'll get. Like, I know what analogy I can use that you'll understand.
Yep.
But I think I want to use a different one for the fans and the listeners, because it's different. Everybody has a perspective, different perspective, different perspective. I can't even talk.
Trying to add value to the listeners makes the conversation more juicy.
Right.
And it gives you and I a different perspective on our own already sharpened philosophy.
And it's fundamentals for us. Like, it's fundamental that I have to understand that I most likely will do something today that I may think is negative. Like, I may be like, fuck, I wish that didn't happen. I wish I did better at this.
For sure.
But if I use that and channel it in the right way, it will get better. And I think people need to know that. Like, your relationship may have failed. It may cease to exist.
Yes.
But what did you take out of it that's positive?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
and
you didn't waste your time. You wasted
didn't.
your time if you're not going to...
If you're
going to say
anything from it.
if you're going to say, oh, she's a bitch. She's crazy.
Yeah.
I did nothing wrong. She's crazy.
You always go back to that.
Because
I love it.
Because I know, dude, like, that's how a lot of people are, man.
I know.
You know, it's easier to blame somebody else than it is to take credit for your fuck up.
If you blame someone else, then you're not going to take the responsibility, which might be nice in the moment, but you're also not going to take the value. In other words, if you were to look back on that relationship and say, okay, it failed, so it ceases to exist now. What were the micro failures that I wasn't doing, and what caused that macro failure? What didn't I do that I could have done or should have done?
Should have had that talk with her, that uncomfortable talk. I should have had that with her.
I should have let her know.
Because that would have been a micro failure.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing, man.
You know? I think
bringing the truth is the hardest
thing. And
thing.
another thing, though, about that is if you and I... So you and I are, for all intents and purposes, business partners, right?
Yes. With intensity.
With intensity. If this fails... And
no chance.
no, it will not. It will not, because we're going to continue putting in quality reps.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Say it did.
Yeah.
And rather than being like, oh fuck, where did I go wrong? Mm-hmm. Like, what did I take part in that wasn't the most positive? How did I affect this? If I just said, Alan's just he's a shitty person to work with.
Right? You're not going to get any value.
You're not going to get any value.
You're not going to change.
And that's going to be part of my identity. I just tricked myself into staying exactly the same. Because it's not my fault, it's your fault.
I know.
I don't have to do anything different.
So this is huge. We have report cards in school, and we always say failure is your report card.
Yeah.
Micro failures are important because the more regularly, this is another thing, the more regularly you have those micro failures, the more regularly you get report cards on what you need to improve. CADS, kid. on what you need to improve. So I don't know if this is true. Do you wish you had done better in high school, grades-wise?
No, I did all right. I did.
Okay.
For what the effort I put in, I did better than I should have.
Okay, I wasn't trying to imply that you should or
no.
shouldn't. I'm just curious. So, report cards are set up to be a measurement of whether or not we are succeeding in learning. I think a lot of people, because we don't talk about failure and micro failure and macro success and growth and stretching and all that stuff a lot in daily conversation, which we're trying to fix.
We are.
I don't know if people really understand the value of a real report card. We used to call them progress reports. Remember back in middle school?
There's a difference, though. I think
report card versus progress report?
Progress reports come out every halfway through each quarter.
Yeah.
I think.
In our school system.
So
we grew up in the same school system. It's different for everybody. But progress reports, report cards, they're all a measurement of your progress.
Well, my hope was that progress report would be your micro failure. And then the report card would be your chance for macro success.
Oh, interesting.
I
think graduation, again, it all depends how you frame, but graduation is your macro success. So let's say, in high school, for example, I always wanted to get the President's Award, which was basically get straight A's and never get below a 95 GPA.
Right.
All through high school. No report card could have below a 95. I got it. George Bush signed it.
Hey,
Right here. Yep. President's
George W.
That would be what I consider macro success. But I had micro failures along the way. In sometimes I got a B, and I was like, oh shit, I need to get A's in these classes, usually math, to bring up this fucking B I got in English. Right? And I only got a B once in English. But still, that's an example of I need to do something about this before it ruins my ultimate goal. So
Interesting.
Progress reports, man. We always say people don't get feedback enough.
Yeah, I was going to go.
Netflix doesn't give you feedback. That's why we're all in front of the TV, right? We can watch Lincoln on Netflix, which I love that movie, and we can see him having micro failures every day. The Civil War and like accomplishing the macro success of abolishing slavery. But I'm not in pain. He is. I'm just simulating it.
That's why everybody says, oh, everything happens for a reason. And I always say, no, everything happens and you choose the reason. I don't think everything happens for a reason, because if you don't do the right thing, if you don't have the right reaction, nothing happens.
Have you ever heard this quote? This is shout out.
Here we go. I don't know where this is going.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
So have you ever heard that saying? It's like, if you fell out of a
I'm
building.
going to put my sunglasses on for this just in case.
I love it.
I'm gonna block all the stupid from coming into my eyes.
If you fall off a building and break your legs,
Yeah.
everything happens for a reason. Yeah, gravity. You know what I mean?
I like that.
It doesn't mean you should jump off buildings.
Right.
Right? So I think that everything happens for a reason. We talked about this quote in the gym earlier before we did this podcast. Life is happening for you, not to you.
Yes.
As long as you are taking the value.
Yes.
Another thing that I want to talk about is, in order to figure out what you really want, because that's something that I get a lot. When people reach out to me on social media, they say, like, I don't know what I want.
Right.
Start with what you don't want. Which, by the way, a failed relationship.
Great point.
You figure out, like, oh, I don't want that.
Right.
Goddamn.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
I really want this. Invert things. Like, if you don't know what you want, what,
you just
what
said, did you just say failed relationship? How dare you?
What do you mean?
It's not failed.
No. So,
If you take something from it.
a relationship that ceases to exist.
Oh, all right.
An intimate
I got you.
relationship. Yeah.
So
See, that's the reason why people think failure is
Right.
Yeah, it's my fault. I shouldn't.
You're the worst.
I'm the worst. So start with what you don't want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when someone comes to me and they're like, "Oh, I just don't know what I want." Andrew Copeland's going through a lot of that right now. Shout out to you, brother. Next time I hang out with him, I'm going to ask, like, what don't you want? If you don't know what you want yet, what don't you want?
Yeah.
Write out all. I don't want a 9 to 5, or maybe you do. I don't know. I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want that. Because then you invert that, and it starts to really get clear on what you do want. Because if this is all the stuff you don't want, outside here, the camera can only see this. It's going to kind of hone in more and more. Put it this way: the more you know what you don't want, the more you're going to hone in on like what you do.
And when you find something that you think you want, you think you have a passion for, just do it. Just do it and try it.
Yep.
Try and see what happens.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to stick it out, like through the mud, if you're willing to grind out through the mud.
Shout out to Danielle Murr. She said the real right way to go about it is to crash the plane a few times.
Yeah.
You know?
You have to.
As long as it's not an actual plane and you're a pilot. Because that's a macro failure.
If you're a pilot and you're listening, figure your shit out.
Yeah.
But that is super important. It's like, so many people think that the first bump in the road is like the finale. It's like, there's no way I can rebound from this.
# Justin Wren.
Justin Wren, yeah. That was terrible. That was terrible.
Tough.
Terrible.
Okay, so that was what you would consider a pretty big micro failure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to stop doing this.
You wanted
almost.
to stop doing this.
I was
so
at the
that was
point
a
where
lot
I
of
was like,
emotional pain.
Yeah, that hurt.
You know what you learned from that, though? I never want that to happen again.
Right.
So you went forward, and now you made sure your equipment was next level.
Yeah.
If you hadn't gone through... This is why people think something happens for a reason. It only is that way because you chose the reason.
Right.
We recently, Kevin and I, I said, Kevin, okay, close your eyes, and I want to show you two things. I listened to the very first intro of the introduction of the Hyperconscious podcast.
Yes.
And I said, just hold that. Hold that in your mind. That the way you were, your tonality, just your presence, that whole thing. And then I went to the most recent one. It's night and day.
Oh, it's a huge difference.
Because I wanted Kevin to see in a real way how much these micro failures, every single podcast we have misspoken. Every single podcast we have screwed up the video or the audio or both or the lighting. But I want him to realize that those micro failures are literally the only reason why you've improved so much
Right.
as a human being.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
I also think it's huge for us though, because like dude, it's funny to me when things go wrong because that's part of who I am. I'm not, you know what I mean? I want to be the most genuine version of myself, and like I'm not going to let the light blowing out wreck my day.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That happened
It
last
happens,
time.
dude. That happens to people.
Yeah.
You know, and what are people going to say? Like, oh, you need to get your shit together? Like, yeah, maybe we do.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're
definitely
trying
do.
every single time.
Oh yeah.
Every
Yep.
single time.
So you just hit a huge note that I think is really important. Darren Hardy says this. Shout out to you, Darren. He says, when you make fear into fun, the fear dissipates.
Yes.
So you used to be afraid of rejection. You used to be afraid of... You and Danielle connected on this. Your fear of incompetence, meaning if you're looking around a restaurant, you don't know where your friends are.
Yep.
You open the door and it's locked, right? That kind of stuff. That was a fear of incompetence. I think a fear of incompetence, like looking bad, being made fun of. I always go back to, we all were in high school one time and we raised our hand and asked a stupid question.
Yeah.
Everybody laughed at us. I have learned to associate that those questions and being laughed at is necessary in order for me to succeed on the macro level. You are there. I can tell. Because you're like, oh, of course the light's going to go out. There was a time, though, where that would have bothered you.
for
and
sure.
you would have felt like a failure.
For sure.
How do we get someone who is that way still, like we used to be, into this new world of it's actually fun to fail on the micro level because you know that it's going to make success on the macro level?
So
In terms of growth.
it's such a hard thing to say because like a couple of my friends, so you know like what's been going on with people around us, like you and I have a very similar group of friends,
Yes.
right? So a couple of
Dream
close
team.
friends of mine,
Shout out to the Dream Team.
dream team, yeah, a couple of close friends of mine have been going through some shit. They've been going through the mud.
Oh, yeah.
They've had 3 or 4 terrible things happen to them in a row, and I told them both the same thing. I said, look, it's going to turn around.
Yeah.
Because you haven't let this change the way you're living your life. One of my friends is the happiest he's ever been. The happiest he's ever been. The other
So
one
the
is...
next thing will be good.
Yeah, I said the next thing that happens to you will be positive. But just
Positive.
don't let the negative stuff make you forget that.
Yeah.
Like, things are going to go wrong. That's part of life.
When you said you didn't let them change you, I think that that's a scary notion, and I know you know why, because some things should change you, some
Yeah, yeah,
things
yeah.
shouldn't. How do we hone in on which micro failures? Because micro failures are there to give you little adjustments that make all the difference in the long run.
All right, I'll use an example.
Yeah.
It's not real. Well, yeah, okay. I had a micro failure yesterday. I wanted to go to the boxing gym. You
Yes.
and I have been talking about that.
Oh, totally.
I let myself down by not going.
Ooh.
So there's 2 ways I could approach this. I could say, well, you know what? Maybe I just don't want to box. Like, maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's why I didn't want to go. Or I
That's
can
a
be,
rationalization, though. That's just saying, like, oh,
But
I just
don't-
don't like boxing.
Do you agree
That's
that a
not-
lot of people do that?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, but that's not...
no. That's
yeah, yeah.
not my. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm saying.
No, I know. Okay.
So realistically, I just went hyper conscious and said, okay,
Nice.
why? I don't want to go because of this reason or this reason or this reason.
So
Most
what
of
are
which,
those reasons? Let's dig deep.
So
Kevin's
it's dude.
getting
It's,
a little uncomfortable.
no,
I love it.
for
I
sure.
love it.
This is why, dude. This is genuine, Kevin.
why we're doing
I'm
it.
going to be honest and straight up.
Hyper conscious.
Anytime you go into a room where you're probably going to be the least skilled in that room is
Fear of incompetence.
scary.
It is.
That's scary.
So that's your fear of
Yeah,
incompetence.
but it's necessary.
Necessary.
That's necessary. That was England.
Yes.
That was going and seeing those girls with Andrew.
Oh, yeah.
Like, those were all things that I was super uncomfortable with doing. But guess what? I did them. I survived, and I grew from them.
I think anyone who's been listening to this podcast since the beginning knows how much you've grown.
Yeah, I would
Let's
hope so.
diagnose what things you've been doing.
And that's
in the
why I
micro
try
level?
to bring it real, like with the negative
Yeah.
stuff too. Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
not everything's. I stayed in bed all day yesterday. I told you that.
Yeah,
I was
you
in
did.
bed all day yesterday.
Yeah.
My mind just wasn't there. I don't know if it was just because I'm tired or I just needed a day off, but I just stayed in bed all day.
Well, you just admitted that you wanted to go to that gym.
I did.
You and I had a conversation not too long ago on the way home from the podcast with
It was,
Danielle.
Yeah, the way home from Danielle's.
It was super legit because
Oh, yeah.
I realized a lot of patterns that I could tell you didn't see because it's hard to see the whole picture when you're in the frame,
Yep. As they say.
as they say. And fighting, I think, is in your heart.
It is,
like,
for sure.
Like boxing,
Yep.
MMA, jiu-jitsu, whatever the martial arts, any sort of fighting, I can tell it's something you're super passionate
Yeah,
about. Your heart
for
is
sure.
saying, go do this.
For sure.
And I can see that all day. But Kevin, definitely, sometimes the things that we want most scare the shit out of us the most. I think that it's weird to me that you haven't pursued this yet. And I think that digging deep on why that is and using it not as an excuse but as something you can shift is going to be everything.
So to me, I'm hard on myself. You know that. Like, I'm hard on myself. There comes a point where you realize, like, either I'm going to do this or it's going to be regret. Like, either I'm going to just, you have to understand that sometimes you got to take a leap. Like, you got to take a leap.
Yep.
Kevin Hart, the first time he did stand-up comedy, got laughed at.
Oh,
not
yeah.
in a good way.
Not in a good way.
And
Laughed
he's the
at,
best,
not laughed with.
Yeah, he's the best comedian, widely considered one of the best comedians of all time.
Of all time.
Probably the most successful
Do you know how
comedian
many
of all
people?
time.
You know how many times he got laughed off stage?
Right.
Dude, read his
But
book.
nobody knows that
Kevin
because
Hart's book
they
is
think he's an
amazing.
overnight sensation.
Not even close.
Right.
16 years, man.
Right.
He screwed up so many times.
But my point is, you have to be, if you want to succeed, you have to be willing
to fail on the micro
to
level.
fail on the micro level.
There were so many times when Kevin Hart's such a good example. He has a book out, and it's a really funny book. So
It
I
is.
think
It's
it's
a
a
good
it's a good audio book.
If you listen to the audiobook,
He's hilarious.
He narrates it. He's hilarious.
Yeah, he's so funny. The chapter titles are ridiculous. But
He's
that
a
dude
unique man.
failed more than anybody.
But
On the micro level.
Yeah.
But that's what creates
I think
macro
what we'll
success.
have to do is I mean, we kind of have. We've done it, but it's
We'll have
almost
him on the show one day.
Who?
Let's have him on the show.
Oh,
one
for
day.
sure.
Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
yeah,
but I won't be the funny one anymore.
that's fine. Oh, there's the fear of
No.
incompetence.
That'd
a
be
little
awesome.
bit.
No, no,
It's coming
no,
up. No, that would be
God,
good.
no.
Okay.
No. To have the chance to sit across from that man, come
yeah,
on.
yeah, hell yeah.
I won't even plug my mic in if I don't have to. That's fine.
So if other people are afraid of incompetence on a subconscious level, because they got laughed at or whatever back when we were kids, what do we do about that? What do they do about that?
You know what I would honestly say? I would say go have a micro failure. Make yourself have a micro failure. There's this great, I think it was the TED Talk, and I'm going to butcher this because I haven't listened to it in a long time, but this is something that it really, really resonated with me. It was called the Olympic Donut Story or something. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, he just went and looked to get no's.
To get no's.
Yeah.
He went into Krispy Kreme and said, yeah, can you just make me a donut that looks like the Olympic symbol?
The Olympic symbol. Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah.
And he realized, like, oh shit.
I can just,
And he was getting rejected a lot before that. He was just asking, like, stupid questions.
Like weird
walking up
things.
to a stranger and be like, yo, can I kiss you on the cheek?
yeah, and
of
then
course you're going to
he
get...
was like, can I go in your backyard,
Yeah.
pick a rose, and then sell it to the neighbor?
Yeah. No, it wasn't sell. It was I think it was planted in their
Planted
garden.
in their
and
garden.
the person was like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I think we assume that we're going to get rejected. Depending on the mindset you have. You and I have very different mindsets.
I do think that's a human nature default.
Right. Because of the
And
ego.
you have to really train against that.
So
Yeah.
I think if you want to end up down the road comfortable, and when I say comfortable, I mean like living your dream life. Like comfort to me isn't staying in the same place I am, not taking chance. Like that's not comfort.
Yeah.
When I say like if you want to live a comfortable life, I mean do you want to live the life of your dreams? If you want to do that, you have to get uncomfortable. It's not a saying that it's not just a saying that things don't grow in comfort zones. It is a legitimate thing.
Oh,
just
it's
like
fact. It's a fact.
the 5 people you hang out with affect you more than anything. That is a huge thing.
Fact.
So I think people need to realize like you might not see results right away. You're probably not going to.
You're not going. I wrote
But-
a Twitter meme about that today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder
said,
why. Like,
Yeah.
you think that's a coincidence? You know? Like,
True.
fuck.
Keep going on that tangent, though.
I just think that people need to realize like you're not going to succeed right away.
So, what can we do to go outside our comfort zone? Do you feel like you're going outside your comfort zone?
Not
on
as
a
much as I should.
consistent not as
Not
much
as much as I
you
should.
Okay.
And I think the boxing thing is one of the reasons. I know what that is. I know exactly
It's
what
time.
that is.
It's your
That's
heart's-
get in the fucking car and drive there.
Yeah.
Everything else that's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
What's the worst thing that could happen? Let's do a fear chasing diagnosis here. Worst case scenario, you get laughed at, or you look incompetent.
Honestly, and this is, I'm not trying to be cocky. I don't think I would get laughed at.
I don't. Then what's the problem?
I don't know.
Well, let's figure that out.
It's just there's a disconnect between. So I always
There's
say, like,
something there.
what would best version of Kevin do? And I told you this. I feel like best version of Kevin just hasn't been around as much as he should lately. Yeah.
So, Tim Grover, I always share out this book. It's called Relentless. He had an interview. He was Michael Jordan's a trainer for 15 years. And speaking of failure, people forget this, and he talks about this. Michael Jordan is widely accepted as the greatest basketball player to ever live. He said people forget he took more shots and missed than anyone else in the history of the game. He missed more than anyone else in the history of the game. What a coincidence. He's the best basketball player of all time. Because each one of those misses was an adjustment. Each one of those micro failures created macro success.
Yeah.
Who wins 3 championships, goes and plays baseball, and then wins 3 more? Who does that?
Michael Jordan.
So, Tim Grover also said this. When you look in the mirror, people think it's what you see that needs to be adjusted. It's what you don't see. And right now, you're trying to search for what your aversion is to this next level of, or this next step in your fighting passion. It's what you don't see right now that's going to shift it. Let's dig.
I honestly think it's just the fact that I know exactly what I need to do.
But there's something going on.
Because
if you know what you're supposed to do, everyone knows what they're supposed to do,
Right.
salad or burger, right?
Burger.
Always.
No,
well, but we do it for a reason.
Right.
So
I'm teasing.
But it's true, right? You have a choice in front of you. You know that you're going to regret it if you don't go fight. You're not following through. There is a reason.
For sure.
And it's not something that's probably conscious, and it's probably not something on the surface. So let's go hyper-conscious and find it.
I don't think I'm going to regret it because I know I'm going to do it. It's just a matter of when I grab my nuts and do it. That's what I mean.
Love it.
I'm just in a weird place
what's
of
going to trigger that breakthrough?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I think...
Because theoretically, you could just get up, walk out of here, and go do it.
Right now.
So after this, you could go
I need to do more research, I think.
Okay.
Because I do think fear chasing is super important, right? But I'm an analytical guy. Like, I need to know some certain things before I go do this. You know what I mean?
I remember when we invited you to the 4th of July camping down the Cape.
I'm sure I asked for all
Matt
the logistics.
was telling me a lot about you. This was before I knew you, and that was very outside your comfort zone.
Oh,
Isn't it crazy how that back then was like a lot for you?
Yeah.
Now that would be nothing.
Nothing.
It would be completely nothing. So, shout out to Danielle again. She mentioned this. Notice how she texted me right before we got there. Like, by the way, my number on my house is in cursive. It's hard to read. You'll have a white SUV on the outside. It's a white house with brick or whatever it was. She had this whole detailed list. I realized after the fact, hindsight's 2020, that was because that's what she would want if she was coming to our place, because she doesn't want to go to that door that's locked. She's afraid.
When people come see me, like for the first time, I always say, call me when you get off the highway.
Why?
Because I know you're not going to be able to find it, and I'd rather just save you the stress.
But maybe they don't get stressed.
Maybe they don't, but I do.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Like I treat people the way I want to be treated.
Yeah.
Basically, that's it.
That's what I noticed that she was doing. She considered that courteous for us, and it was very nice. But it's like,
still drove by the house.
Yeah, we did. I think that's interesting. That's why you want to do more research.
I want to do more research.
You want to feel more comfortable.
I want to feel more comfortable in the discomfort.
What if you just dove in?
What if?
I think that would be growth for you.
It probably would.
That would be.
It probably would.
I'll
fucking dive in.
Dive in.
See, now,
first.
what I have to do is just, like the 10-second thing, if I just say it on here.
And you just get in the car like the Manchurian Candidate.
I'll do it.
Just go.
Yeah. No, I need to do it. I need to do it because...
Which gym are you going to go to?
I don't even know the name of it.
You don't?
See,
that's why you want to do more research.
I Googled it. I have it. I have the location. I just haven't called. I want to call to see like what...
the deal is.
Yeah, what the deal is.
Okay.
Like I want to know. But I am... for sure making more excuses than necessary.
Okay.
I don't, like, if you're listening to this and you sound like I sound like, it's because you're afraid to do what you're talking about.
Everybody's heard of that quote where
we're going to do another, so we're going to do a shortened episode today because...
What are we at?
Why not? We're at 38 minutes. We're going to do 45.
Minutes. Okay, perfect.
So we'll do another however many minutes it is.
So everyone's heard that quote, if your reasons aren't big enough, your excuses will be. And this weekend for me was a big testament to that. Basically, if you want something bad enough, you'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, how bad do you want it before a difficult set, right? I say that to myself all the time. These last 3 days, I was applying to a job that I really want with Darren Hardy. Hopefully that works out, everybody. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, fingers toes.
I gave it my all, so now there'll be no regrets no matter what happens, because I know I spent 3 days straight just interviewing with this process. But the point is I just crawled through more mud in the last 3 days. Self-inflicted mud. Obviously, I've had some traumas in my life, childhood, stuff like that were way more difficult than this weekend was. But this was self-inflicted mud, and it was really, really taxing on my mind and my emotions to really get this all done this weekend. Long story short, I wanted this job so damn bad. So bad. Every time I had the urge to I need a break or I need to quit or, I'll do it tomorrow, I was like, no, you're going to regret it.
Right.
Like, you want this
Right.
so bad. So if you were going for something that you really, really want, that's your true north, like, you're going to be more willing to crawl through the mud to get to the higher ground.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a true north, start with what you definitely don't want. Write a list. This is what I don't want in my partner. This is what I don't want in my friends. This is what I don't want in my life. This is what I've had and I dislike it. Start there. You'll start to hone in on what you really, really want. When you want something bad enough, all the obstacles
Fall away.
you find a way. Dude, I'm telling you.
I just don't think I've set that intention yet.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I want a box, but what do I want to do?
How bad do you want a box?
Like, what? But what's the end goal? Do I
don't
want to
know.
get in the ring and fight? Like, that's. I think
Let's get
I don't
clear
have
on that.
I don't have the why power yet because I haven't formed it.
So clarity is power. Let's get clear on what you want.
I do, dude, for sure. I want to fight, for sure.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
For
So
sure.
what kind?
Boxing.
What? Boxing.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So
I'm not trying to
clarity
get
is power.
my face kicked off.
Okay. So you want a box.
Yeah,
When?
that I don't know
You won't know until you train.
until I start.
Okay. So you definitely want to, though.
But if I did set a date, I would have no option but to train.
You're not getting any younger.
I know.
It's time.
I'm getting in better shape though.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
No, dude.
You
Honestly,
hit the bag every time we go.
know. Dude, I love it.
You're pulled to the bag. I can feel it. I'm
I
like,
literally
Kevin's
see it,
going to hit the fucking
and it's
bag
not
again.
moving, and I'm like, I need to change that.
I need
to make this thing move.
Dude, and I'm doing my thing because I have a show coming up. So my Y power is really big. You're gonna be that much more inclined.
But what if? So, what if? I think that means I need to find, or I need to add somebody to my life. I think.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't have anybody that I share this passion with.
Yes.
Nobody else around me cares.
Huge.
And I don't mean that in a bad way.
No, but
I mean
not,
like they're just not.
they're not into that.
They see me hitting the bag and they're like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah,
like whatever.
They watch UFC, in the
Not
big
all of them.
fights, but not all of them.
Not
yeah.
all of them.
Only the big.
I
fights.
watch all the fights. I watch Saturday. I watched 5 hours of UFC and 2 hours of boxing. Saturday night. I was
Have
up
you
till
ever
4 in the
seen
morning.
movie Into the Wild.
I don't think so.
Okay, so phenomenal movie based on a book. Long story short, the premise of that movie is happiness only exists when shared. He goes out into the northern Alaska. He ends up dying, and he writes that on a wooden pallet because it's such a sad story. He wanted freedom, but then he realized like he was alone, and he was trying to write a book, and he ended up passing away. He ate some berries that were poisonous.
First world problems right there.
If you have a passion, like you and I both have a passion for fitness, natural fitness,
Yep.
big time passion. If we didn't do that together, it fuels each other's fire. So you need that with.
So I actually just I do. So shout out to Omar. I got a buddy Omar that I spar with at the gym every once in a while. I haven't seen him in a minute. Young and up and coming entrepreneur. We're gonna have him on for sure.
Nice,
Good,
good.
cool, good.
Let's
dude.
have him on, man. Set it up.
So maybe that's what it is. Maybe I just need to.
Let's get him on the podcast, and then we'll talk about when you guys can train.
And then I
spar.
need to allocate more time to that.
More time to him and
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah,
man. People with similar passions fuel each other's passions. Yep.
yeah. I mean, dude, he likes all the stuff we put up. He's always commenting. Like, big shout out to you, Omar. I appreciate you, dog. And I'm gonna be reaching out because I gotta figure this out.
As my hero Greg Plitt, who's over there on the wall, once said, "Champions come in pairs of two."
So, for those listening, this that just happened wasn't planned.
Nope.
This is what
I may have calculated it.
you probably did. But Gary Vee posted something yesterday that said, look, I understand it's hard to find new friends. I understand it's hard to admit that your friends are not serving you in the best possible way.
Yes, it is.
This is why it's important to have people that genuinely have your best interest at hand.
For sure.
That's it.
Yep.
You don't care if
I'm not passionate about fighting.
Right.
I want you to be happy.
That's it.
Yep.
And I think that what we share, what you and Matt share, what me and Matt share, what you and Tom share, what me and Andrew, all that,
The
Nate,
dream team.
I think
Shout out
that
to
is
Nate.
what you need. That is what you want. That is what you should desire in every single relationship.
Yeah,
every
man.
single relationship.
Every single relationship.
And that's that.
Shared passions, for sure.
Yeah. You got anything you want to end with? We're actually going to be on time. You have 1 minute and 8 seconds.
I love it. So this
Might be the realest one for me.
is good. We just got something real.
Yeah, because that was
you have a next step now.
super Real. And I'll try to forget about it after the podcast. No.
It's on record.
I'm kidding.
Force
it is on
Kevin
record.
to reach out to Omar.
Yes.
No, we'll make it happen. One thing I want to say is, because this episode is about the positive side of failure, the power of failure. There's a great quote, because I'm looking at Greg Plitt on the wall over here, a poster in my room. He said, "Champions are not found on the podium with their hand up. Champions are found in the lab studies, the thousands of hours of hard work when no one's watching. That's what makes the will unstoppable." He says, "The gun blast begins now, guys. Second by second, you miss the opportunity to be who you want to be." This weekend, I spent 3 days in this fucking room. I don't know what's going to come of that. I hope good things will, but I do know that I am forever better because of it. That's the shit no one sees. I was alone, man, all weekend, for 3 days straight, doing nothing else.
So I saw you on Friday or Saturday, and the room is still the exact same way.
Yeah. I slept on the couch for 3 days.
Like, how bad do you want it?
Because how bad do you want it?
You want it pretty fucking bad.
If you want it bad enough, you will do what it takes. And micro failures are the route to success.
And again, I say this at the end of every episode, basically, but I hugely appreciate everybody reaching out. Like, I'm helping somebody one-on-one right now get through some shit, and that means the world to me. I love that. I'm so grateful that you guys trust me enough to reach out, and I know it's super hard. Like, that's a hard thing to reach out to somebody.
Yeah, it is.
You know, I haven't talked to this person in like 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, that's hard. So,
that was awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. And pat yourself on the back when you do some hard shit.
I love when that happens, man.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. It's really...
And I want people to keep reaching out. Like, it'll never be your problem becomes mine. It'll always be, I want to help you change your life.
Here's the one more thing, too. Micro failures leading to macro success. You're going to be... We talked about this earlier at Panera. You're going to be succeeding in things you didn't even anticipate.
Right.
Like these people who... Not little people. These little things on a day-to-day that happen. We always talk about micro failure, but what about the micro things? Everyone on a primal level wants to get outside their comfort zone, be alive, right? So when you're doing that, you're going to incentivize and inspire other people to do it, and they're going to reach out to you like they did. People reach out to me, and it's like, those are the things that are like, oh, I didn't even anticipate.
Right?
That's not why I was doing it, but it's so nice.
What does that feel like? It feels so good.
It feels like $1 million to inspire someone else to change their life.
Yeah.
And you are going to inspire someone else if you get inspired naturally.
For sure.
So
love it.
Micro failures lead to macro success.
Do you have anything you want to plug?
No, I think everything is going really well. Thank you all so much for our engagement on Instagram.
Yes.
And on the other social media platforms. Things have been going really well, Kevin.
I started a Twitter and I have 1 follower.
Oh yeah, Kevin is on Twitter now.
You guys want to follow me on Twitter? I'll just be putting up motivational / philosophical
Love it.
things.
Typically we shout out a review.
True.
We will do that next time we do a solo episode.
Yes.
We've been getting a lot of love about the podcast lately.
I know. Let's do a shout out right now. We'll do a shout out
Let's do it.
to one of our good friends, Tom. Tom was on this podcast a long time ago. He was on our buddy, the Cope Daddy podcast, Andrew Copeland's podcast. Tom, you're killing it, brother. And
yes,
I'm really, really proud of you, man.
Too.
It's been a fucking rough ride the last couple of years, but this is where that shit starts paying off.
Tom, this is a note that I would literally write on a flashcard and send to you personally. You've added a lot of value to my life lately, man. Both when it comes to the gym, strength training stuff we talked about.
Especially podcast stuff.
And especially podcast stuff. And then the Snapchat wisdom that he shared about, because he's watched my Snapchat for a while and he had a lot of value as a consumer of social media. So thank you so much, man. I know you care and you're leveling up like a boss.
Fuck yeah.
I love it.
So ladies and gents, we are going to sign off. We are going to go finish off the rest of our days. I'm going to hit the gym again tonight for round 2.
You are.
Oh, sure. If you want to join, feel free. But
But
we're going to sign off and have a great life.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.